are developmental and genetic influences. Take a look at this nursing alert. Double the child's height at the age of 2 years to estimate how tall he or she may be as an adult. Because you'll get questions a lot from the parents, like, how tall do you think she's gonna be, especially boys, and the parents are like, really want the child to be like an athlete. They ask that question a lot, so that's good to know. All right, let's move on to theoretical foundations of personality development. We touched on this maybe like week 2, and you're seeing this again. You guys are going to see this again. Have you taken psych yet?
No.
They're gonna kill you with this. Make sure you know them, okay? This is important in PEDS as well. So let's go over the theoretical foundations of personality development. We're gonna start with Freud. And Freud's theory is psychosexual development. So when you see psychosexual development, think of Freud. Let's look at these stages, and you guys do need to know them. So the oral stage, that is birth to 1 year old. During infancy, the major source of pleasure seeking is centered on oral activities. This is how they soothe and comfort themselves through their mouth. Ages 1 to 3 years old, that's your anal stage. That's where the focus moves from the mouth to the anal area. Why? Remember, this is where they start potty training, right? Anal stage, interest during the 2nd year of life centers in the anal region as sphincter muscles develop. And in parentheses, I put potty training. Age 3 to 6, this is the phallic stage. During the phallic stage, the genitalia becomes an interesting and sensitive area of the body. Children start to recognize the differences between the sexes and they become curious. Age 6 to 12, this is the latency period. Physical and psychic energy are channeled into acquisition of knowledge and vigorous play. And guess what? They gain knowledge through that vigorous play. Age 12 and older, that is the genital stage. The last significant stage begins at puberty with maturation of the reproductive system and production of the sex hormones. Energies are also invested in forming friendships and preparing for marriage. So let's shift gears. We're going to go from Freud to Erikson. Remember in Freud, we were talking about psychosexual. Now that we're dealing with Erikson, we're talking about psychosocial. When you see psychosocial development, you're talking about Erikson. You need to know these stages. Birth to 1 year old, that's trust versus mistrust. Where that baby learns to trust their environment, they trust that if they cry, they're going to get a bottle. If they cry, they're going to get changed. If they cry, they're going to be soothed, they're going to be hugged, they're going to be held. Because remember, that's how they communicate at that age, right? And if they don't get that, they develop a mistrust of the world and their environment. This establishment of basic trust dominates the first year of life and describes all of the child's satisfying experiences at this age. Mistrust develops when trust-promoting experiences are deficient or lacking, or when basic needs are inconsistently or inadequately met. And a perfect example they like to give it, like a test question, is a good example of a baby that the parents are substance abusers or addicts, or there's a lot of domestic violence going on in the home, so they don't get that consistency. All right, next, 1 to 3 years old, that's autonomy versus shame and doubt. This is where the toddler wants to start trying to do things for themselves, right? And as a parent, you have to teach them to allow them to try things for themselves, but things that they can accomplish, because they'll want to do things for themselves. And if you don't let them try, they'll experience shame and doubt. They'll think that they can't do anything by themselves. But if you allow them to keep trying to do things that are way out of their capacity and they fail every time, they'll grow up with that feeling of shame and doubt, like, I'm not good enough, I can't succeed at anything. The problem of autonomy can be symbolized by holding on and letting go of the sphincter muscles. This is another thing. Remember, this is the age where they're potty training. And if they're not successful in that time where they have to learn how to, let mommy know, like, I gotta go to the, and they keep, urinating on themselves or defecating on themselves, they'll experience that feeling of shame and doubt. Initiative versus guilt, that's 3 to 6 years old. This is the stage of initiative, corresponds with Freud's phallic stage. It's characterized by vigorous, intrusive behavior, enterprise, and strong imagination. This is where they have the imagination to go on all types of adventures. This is also a time that they develop a conscience. Children must learn to retain a sense of initiative. This is the key, guys, without impinging on the rights and privileges of others. Next, 6 to 12 years old, that's industry versus inferiority. This is the school age, right? Children are ready to be workers and producers. They need and want real achievement. They love to play games where there's a prize at the end because they want to be a winner. Age 12 to 18, identity versus role confusion. The adolescent, this is how when they start to try to figure out who they are as a person. And they do that by their social groups. Adolescents struggle to fit the roles they've played and those they hope to play in with the current roles and fashions adopted by their peers, to integrate their concepts and values with those of society, and to come to a decision regarding an occupation. All right, now we're going to move on to Piaget, cognitive development. When you see cognitive development, that's who you need to think of, Piaget. The first stage is sensorimotor. That's birth to 2 years old. Sensory motor. This is when they develop a sense of cause and effect as they direct behavior towards objects. They're able to differentiate themselves from their environment. And this is important. They become aware that objects have permanence. That means if you take a ball and hide it behind the couch, they can go look behind the couch because they realize just because they can't see it doesn't mean it's not there anymore. Object permanence. The next is pre-operational stage. That's 2 to 7 years old. This is a time of egocentrism. This does not mean that they're selfish or self-centered, but it means they have the inability to put themselves in the place of another. So let's say they hit another child. It's not helpful to say to them, how do you think little Johnny feels? They don't have the capacity to put themselves in somebody else's place yet. So when you're teaching them, they have to be the center because they can only relate things to themselves. They have to be the center of what you're talking about for them to understand, okay? Children interpret objects and events not in terms of general properties, but in terms of their relationships or their use to them. They cannot see another's point of view. Next is concrete operations. That's age 7 to 11. This is when their thought becomes logical. It becomes coherent. Children are able to classify, sort, order, and otherwise organize facts. This is the age, guys, where they love collecting things such as stamps or stickers or markers. And this is where they love to put things in boxes and organize, such as their best friend. This is my first best friend. This is my second best friend. This is my third best friend. They like for everything to have a place in their life. They develop a new concept of permanence, which is conservation. They start to understand that if there's a gallon of water and you put that gallon of water in a very, very tall cylinder, it's still 1 gallon of water. They realize that physical factors such as volume, weight, and numbers remain the same, even though the outward appearances are changed. This is important. And last is formal operations. That's age 11 to 15 years old. It's characterized by the ability, by adaptability and flexibility. Adolescents can think in abstract terms, use abstract symbols, and draw logical conclusions from a set of observations. All right, let's move on to play. This is important. You got to know the types of play. You've seen this before, you're seeing it again. Parallel play. During parallel play activities, children play independently, but among other children. So the child's playing by themselves with a toy, but they're playing next to another child playing with a toy. There's no group association. Parallel play is characteristic of toddlers. Next, you have associative play. The children play together and they're engaged in a similar or even identical activity, but there is no organization, no division of labor, no leadership assignment or mutual goal. They're just playing. Each child acts according to his or her own wishes. There is no group goal. Cooperative play. Cooperative play is organized and the children play in a group with other children. The group is loosely formed, but there is a marked sense of belonging or not belonging. The activity is organized to allow one child to supplement another function to complete a goal.